Okay, so I just got back from watching Avengers Endgame in real D 3D. So you hear my 3D glasses? So yeah. Um, Before I sat down, I had no idea how I was going to approach this review because it's impossible to do a non-spoiler review on this movie and not talk spoilers. This movie has basically everything you want as a fan. So before I sat down, I had no idea how I was going to approach this review just as a fan or just as a guy who likes movies, because there's really two ways you can envision this movie. But I went into this movie with high expectations as being a fan of these 11 years and these 22 films building up to Endgame. I'm going to talk spoilers, but don't worry. This is the first night, this is the opening night in Australia, but I won't be uploading this review till Saturday, so you're safe. So yeah, you get a chance until now to see it on Saturday. But yeah, I'll be talking definitely spoilers in this review, but I have no idea where to start because there's just so much to actually just talk about. There's so much fan service in this movie. I want to talk about that third act, but I feel like I should build up to that and just talk about the beginning of the movie. Okay. Because so I'll start off at the very, very beginning. So at the very, very beginning, the Avengers, well, the team, they've gone their opposite ways. They're living their own life now. Hulk is between Bruce Banner and Hulk, so he's half human, half Hulk, so he's full green and he's like working at a restaurant. And Hulk even dabs in this movie. And it's insane the way Hulk has progressed. And like every Avenger has gone the opposite way. Like Hulk, like he's now just taking selfies with his fans. He's now dabbing in public. I mean, that's kind of him. So he's gone his opposite way. So I think all the characters, they've gone the opposite way. They've changed. It's been 5 years since Infinity War. And all of the Avengers have gone their opposite ways. But yeah, like that scene when Hulk is dabbing, it takes like basically Endgame, it takes everything that's in modern day that kids love and puts it into this movie. Like kids love Fortnite. There's even a Fortnite reference, and there's actually a Korg, I think that's his name, who is in Full Ragnarok. He's playing Fortnite, and then before he goes into the microphone and says, "Hey kid, don't say anything rude or I'll fly over there and whack you across the head with my hammer." He says something along those lines, and that is the best thing. So it takes everything that kids love in modern day and puts it in this movie. Like dubbing is such a big thing in our generation now. It's just like so big, and Fortnite is so huge. It's like a worldwide phenomenon. So yeah, I mean, I really love that. I mean, that's one thing I did not expect. I was actually surprised, but I did not expect Fortnite to be in this movie, let alone dabbing. I did not expect that. So yeah, that's Hulk's state of life, and Thor is the state of life. And I want to talk about Thor as well. There's so much to talk about this movie. Okay, so Thor, he's basically he's an overweight guy now. He just sits in his house. He just drinks beer all the time. He drinks wine, beer, and he's just like, oh yeah, I don't care, man. Just go back to what you're doing. It's just like he's that type of character. He's overweight now. It's like when he saw him, like everybody cracked up. And also another thing about this movie is the humor in this movie is great. This is probably the most funniest MCU movie I have seen probably in a while. I can't remember the last Marvel movie I have laughed this much in. Basically, almost all the jokes land. I mean, it's just the way the characters have progressed over these 5 years and just changed so much. Like that's even funny. Like for just him being overweight, I feel like that's funny because you don't expect Thor to be that. So, and I really like that the audience like laughed out loud at that, and it was funny. Chris Hemsworth, like he knocks out the park. This is easily the best I have seen Chris Hemsworth in the MCU so far. Because I mean, he's just damn amazing in this movie. He knocks out the park. This is the best I've seen Chris Hemsworth probably since the first Thor. And this is the best I've seen Chris Evans in the MCU. This is the best I have seen Robert Downey Jr. Like all these guys. And Mark Ruffalo, he's also amazing. This is the best I have seen those guys in the MCU. Like in the whole MCU. This is their best performance I have seen of them. And their best portrayal. I can definitely say the first act is slow. And in the first couple of minutes of this movie, I wasn't liking it because I just felt like some of the editing decisions that they did with it, and just the way that the first act started off, I did not exactly like it. I didn't like some of the editing choices they did, but towards the middle of the first act, the editing did start to get better, and it flowed into the second act and along into the third act. The editing was so much better, but it was just like for the first probably like 5 minutes, the editing did bother me. That's kind of where my problems are, is just with the editing and the way the film starts off. But it's not really a massive problem with me. It's just kind of like a small, just a very tiny, very brief nitpick. Is just the first couple minutes. But sometimes I really like the opening scene, because the opening scene is Hawkeye's film. He's practicing, he's helping his daughter practice bow and arrow, like practice archery, and then in the next scene, they're just gone. They're turned into dust, like the rest of the team. I thought that was a very satisfying, just very, it's very great arc for Hawkeye's character that launched into the rest of this movie. Because Hawkeye is not Hawkeye when you first meet him, because like he's basically like this ninja type guy. Like he's like killing people like left and right in this one scene, and it is just so amazing. And as far as Iron Man goes, Tony Stark, as far as his character goes, and it's like when he first catches up with freaking Chris Evans, Black Widow, and Ant-Man. When he meets up with them, also Ant-Man comes back from the quantum realm in this movie, and that's how he meets up with Chris Evans, like Captain America and Black Widow, and that's how he catches up with them. And then they go to Tony Stark, and Tony Stark, like, he's avoiding to go with them to join the Avengers and get this team back together. He's out of this job. He's not doing it anymore. He's had enough. He has a daughter now. He has his own life. Like the whole superhero gig he was, and before that does not matter. This is his own life. He's starting over. He's starting his life fresh, and he doesn't want to go back to that superhero life. As much as he loved to play to be a superhero, he has his own life now. He has a daughter and all that, and after what's happened, like all these Avengers, you feel like they have a level of grief, and they feel like they've lost everything, and they have like almost 50% of this world is gone. So it's only the Avengers and a few other people, and Stanley's cameo in this movie is also very great as well. But he doesn't like Tony Stark. He doesn't want to join the team anymore, and the Avengers talk him into it, and eventually he does join the team. But because he actually figures out that going back in time is the only way they can rescue, like Spider-Man and the rest of the Avengers that turn to dust in Infinity War. They have to get all these surviving Avengers back together, and they go back in time. But because if they go back in time, this is the part that I predicted, because if they go back in time, that obviously changes the future for them all. But this film, it doesn't. Like, if I go back in time, it doesn't affect the future, it doesn't affect the past. It just kind of stays the way it is from the dialogue that was coming from the characters. But also, speaking of time travel, there is a ton of 80s references. Like, there's like a reference to Die Hard, there's a reference to Back to the Future, there's a reference to Terminator, and this is all in the one scene, by the way, as well. And I just love that scene. I mean, I just laughed out loud at the way that scene unfolded. But I will say the first act, it's definitely slow. It's not exactly what I expected, but then I was just like, okay, if this happened to me, this is how I would be like. This is how much it would have affected me. So I mean, I can't really put my head in that first act, sorry, and I would have been like that would so be me. I would be just very like down. I would have been like going my opposite ways with everything. So yeah, really like that. But yeah, then the Avengers go back in time, and this is the part that I predicted. Like, I was not like 100% like, oh man, 100% this is going to happen. I was just kind of like 50-50 on it, like a coin flip, like 50-50. I was not sure, but I still had that hope for it. So yeah, when they go back in time, they revisit 2012, and that is the New York City fight with Loki and all that. And yeah, they have to get the Infinity Stone from there, and then it cuts back to like 1950, and then it goes back to like 2014 when Guardians of the Galaxy was around, and you get to see the opening scene, of Star-Lord. He's listening to his tunes, and he's like dancing to the opening scene before the title comes up. Like yeah, you see that scene. And freaking what is her name? Nebula. Like she knocks 2014 Star Lord out. And yeah, and then they unlock the door and they get the stone from 2014 going into the galaxy. And then in 1950, this is the first Avenger. This is when this is basically the birth of Captain America. They revisit the first Avenger. And one thing I did not know is that Tony Stark's father was actually in World War II with Captain America, and he was actually part of the army. And yeah, you see this really I guess what's the word here? You get to see this very, like, there's some really cool conversations that go that go with Tony Stark and his dad. But Tony Stark, he does not use his name Tony Stark because his last name is Stark. So yeah, it's his father. So Tony Stark, he pretends to be someone else, and he has to get the stone from 1950, and he changes his name to like Howard Potts. And I thought that was just like a really like hilarious name. And just because he doesn't really want to like affect the past, because like this is the part where it gets kind of confusing a little bit. I mean I really like that part, don't get me wrong, but it just there's so much to analyze in this movie. There's just so much to take in. It does not really let you breathe. And I would not be able to approach a non-spoiler review and just not talk about this stuff. It's so hard to actually do a non-spoiler review and just say, okay, Avengers Endgame was a masterpiece. It's the best MCU movie I've seen in years. That's all you can really say in a non-spoiler review. There's no other way you can approach it. So I thought I would just film my spoiler review tonight, and then I have all the rest of the week to edit it, but there's still a lot more to talk about. So yeah, they revisit all these different movies, and they revisit all these different planets from past movies. Like so, they revisit 2012, they revisit 2014 Guardians of the Galaxy, they revisit 2012 the Avengers when that first big battle in New York battle went down, and then they revisited 1950, and yeah, like there's a really cool conversation going on between Howard Potts, that's Tony Stark's fake name, and his father. There's a couple of really good conversations are going along there, and I really like that. And yeah, they have to collect all these stones from different times, and so yeah, like they collect like the Soul Stone, Time Stone, like all the Infinity Stones, and then they come back to meet in modern day, and then they have to put all these Infinity Stones together. And this part my brain's a little fuzzy on. Like I said, there's so much in this movie. Okay, so what happened after that? Okay, so yeah, Hulk. This is Hulk's big moment in this movie. He has to put on the Infinity Gauntlet with all the stones in it, and he has to control that power, because apparently the Infinity Gauntlet it includes gamma material. Like that's what Hulk's blood is made out of, is gamma ray material. And yeah, like that's apparently from what it's made out of, from the dialogue that the characters were saying. And yeah, Hulk puts it on and has like all 5 Infinity Stones on it, and he basically brings all the Avengers back. They'll turn into dust. He brings them back to modern day, but we don't see them until the 3rd act, because I don't exactly know that part, but then Nebula, this is like 2014 Nebula. Like, so there's like a lot of time travel that includes like the past and the future. So this is the part you might not understand it completely, because maybe it's the way I'm saying it, I do not know. But anyways, but yeah, 2014 Nebula and 2014 Thanos, because actually at the beginning of this movie, like I'm just forgetting all these little parts here, Chris Hemsworth, before he cuts off Thanos' head, that's the first moment where you're just like, holy shit, Thanos is dead! It's like, you think he's actually dead, but then but like, so it includes time travel, so yeah, it goes back to all these different times. And 2014 Thanos reads something in Nebula's brain/mind that says that someone else is looking for her, and this is Nebula, but it's a different conscious of her, and this is like modern day Nebula. And yeah, so like I said, there's just like those types of moments that include so much time travel, and I had no time to really write notes down. I was kind of speaking from what's on my brain, and yeah, like I didn't have time to write notes down. I just wanted to come home and just review and do my spoiler review, because that's why the movie's still fresh in my brain. I already did my Instagram review, but yeah, but yeah, like before he cuts off Thanos' hand, that's like the first surprise of this movie. But the movie it also revisits that Red Skull moment from Infinity War, which I really like that because yeah, you get to see Red Skull like return. He has different dialogue. It's not the exact. It's not like the exact same like shot by shot. And the two Avengers that go there because for the Soul Stone you have to have one sacrifice in order to get the Soul Stone. So this is our first death of the movie, let's say, and like there's Hawkeye there and Black Widow. So one of those two has to sacrifice their life. So they discuss this through and they both want to basically do it because this is really just like the end here. This is the end game. So they have to make sacrifices that will, I guess, help the rest of the movie. So the one who ends up dying is like they both jump, Hawkeye and Black Widow, but Black Widow, she shoots her, like her freaking, how it says, like her gun. Like I'm not sure what it exactly is, and yeah, it attaches like to the wall. But the person who ends up dying is Black Widow, and this is the scene where I got a little bit emotional. I was just like crying a little bit, mate. It's just like it's such a sad moment that just like the way that death plays out, it's so emotional. Like this is probably one of the most emotional MCU movies. I teared up about 1 to 2 times, and you'll find out what the second time is really soon. Yeah, I can't say anything yet because I'm getting to that point in this review. There's still so much to cover. But yeah, Black Widow dies, and just like just like that last shot you get on Black Widow's face before she dies is just so emotional. It hits you right there, and it's just like oh no, we just lost someone. And this is not the same emotion that you felt at the end of Infinity War. This is like a very different emotion that you're feeling. You actually feel that you just lost a team member. You just lost family there. It's like that kind of emotion. But then there's like so many more other emotions that come in that scene, and yeah, it's really great. But it just her death. It's just like I said, it hits you right there. And it's a very sad death to see Black Widow die. I mean, cause she's been such a big part of the MCU. She's been with the Avengers basically all the way since 2012 when the Avengers first formed in that movie. And it's so sad to just see her die because I think Scarlett Johansson is an amazing actor. And I get the actor's not dead in real life, but just her character, she portrayed this character so well. And it's sad to see a character that we know so well just go, just die and all that. But I might edit out just a bit of that party out there. But yeah, it's a death that really hits you and gives you so much emotion. So yeah. Okay. So yeah, like Hawkeye here then ends up like it fades out to black, and then it fades out at the beginning where and Hawkeye has the Soul Stone because, like I said, freaking Black Widow risked her life to get that stone. So yeah, Hawkeye, and then he returns back to the other Avengers, and he says, "Black Widow's dead." Well, Hulk says, "What happened to Nat?" And then Hawkeye's like, "She's dead. She risked her life to get the stone." But yeah, then all the Avengers have the stone. So they came from all these different times, from freaking 2012, the New York battle, to 2014, Guardians of the Galaxy, to 1950, Captain America, the first Avenger, to that Red Skull scene. That's in freaking Infinity War. I just lost that for a minute in my brain. But and all of those scenes, they're shot very differently, with very different dialogue. But yeah, Hulk, it's so much going for my brain. I'm kind of jumping around here, but it's Endgame. This is probably the one reason why I have to jump around, because there's so much happening. But I want to go back to Hulk for a minute. Hulk is not the same that he was in 2012, the Avengers. Because there's even like a little reference to that, like Hulk is saying, or Captain America, he says, "Hulk, you were aggressive back then, man." And he says like something like that, and the Hulk's just like, he's so surprised because the thing is 2012 self. He's like Hulk smash, and he's like all that. He's furious and all that. He's pissed. Like that's 2012 Hulk. And but then the Hulk in 2019 Endgame Hulk he's a lot more calm. He's a lot more like cool and collected. He's dabbing. He's taking selfies with fans, and that's only in the first couple of minutes. But yeah, they need Hulk a part of this because he has the brains of this, and because I think this is what happens. Like there's so much happening. It's very hard to just analyze all this. But I think they go to Tony Stark first. He says no, and then Captain America's like, we need someone else who has even bigger brains than Tony Stark. So they go to Hulk then. So yeah, that's how they find Hulk, and he's actually working at a restaurant in a diner. Like I said, dabbing. He's taking selfies with fans and all that. It's just amazing there. Like Hulk it's a very different version of Hulk, but this is his best performance in the MCU I've ever seen. Mark Ruffalo is at his best, and I just want to talk about Josh Brolin. Okay, he's at the top of his game in this movie. This is like top notch Thanos. Thanos is more furious and pissed than he has ever been. But he's at the top of his game. Like he's like beating the Avengers left and right in the third act, and yeah, his performance is just so great in this movie. And the Avengers, like in the first act and half the second act, they all feel like they're more human, like they're more kind of real life human. They're not in their superhero gear anymore, so they feel more human that way. And there's a lot of great conversations, because that's what I really like in some of the Marvel movies, is as much as we love the action as fans, which this movie does give you tons of fan service on, the conversations, they really matter, and they help develop these characters' arcs and get to where they are now. And they develop on these characters as this story unfolds. So yeah, but like I said, it also revisits a ton of Marvel movies. But yeah, like I said, there's still so much I need to talk about in this. Okay, all the predictions I had for this movie, some of them, most of my predictions, they were there, and then some others not. Okay, this is probably where I have to get into the third act, man. I mean, I'm sorry, but there's so much just to talk about that third act. Like, the third act is the most satisfying third act of all the Marvel movies. I'm telling you, this third act is just so wild, so insane, so huge for the MCU. This is probably their biggest battle since 2012, probably. And this is just insane, this. It has a very satisfying and huge third act. So yeah, I'm gonna get into this third act now. Okay, I think that's everything there is to talk about. I think for the second act, if there is anything else, I'll just edit it in. I'll just, when I'm editing, because I have all this week to edit it, I'll just go back in and just film that quick part. But yeah, also luckily I avoided all spoilers for this movie. As in, I was just like, no, this is an experience for me. This is not just like a movie. It's not really just an experience. It's an event. And this is a movie I did not want to be spoiled. I mean, I was in the Marvel mood, we were going to this movie. I was pumped. I was salivated. I was excited to see the epic conclusion, the epic final chapter of the Avengers. So yeah, the third act. Okay, let's get into the third act. Like I said, there's so much. It's a very wild third act. Okay, so let's see. So there's Chris Hemsworth, Thor. There's Captain America. There's Iron Man, and yeah, like they're all standing like together. And like 2014, okay, I should really start at the beginning. Sorry. Okay, so 2014, Thanos from Guardians of the Galaxy. He comes to modern day. He comes to the future, and when he arrives, he says, so this is what the future looks like." And he says that, and then yeah, there's Thor, there's Iron Man, there's Captain America, and they're all standing, and they go down like to fight him, and Captain America can lift Thor's hammer. And I was just like, holy shit, then, because in Avengers 2 Age of Ultron, which I had the pleasure of revisiting yesterday, Steve Rogers, he could not lift it up, so that was not explained. maybe it's explained in the comics. Maybe I'm not completely updated on the comics, but he did not in Age of Ultron. He could not lift up his hammer. He put like a lot of pressure on it, and he could not lift it up in that movie. But in this movie, it's just like just like a quick, just he can lift it up straight away. And yeah, so I mean that was a big surprise. He can also hold the like the new hammer. I don't know what that's called. It's like the God Hammer, I think it's called. I don't know the exact name of it, but yeah, like there's so much to talk about. But yeah, he can actually lift it, and he actually throws it like at Thanos, like he can handle the weight of it. And at that point, I'm just like, how is this happening? Captain America, he is not worthy of his hammer. Thor even said that in Age of Ultron. It's just like I don't know, like maybe that is explained in some other MCU movie or in the comics. So like let me know that. But I was just found it very weird that he could actually lift it up in this movie like straight on, like no pressure put into it, just like a quick flick up, and then he's got it. He throws it at Thanos and all that. It's just like that's a. Yeah, and I wouldn't say that's really a problem because I think some of the scenes where he's holding his shield and the hammer, I think that's some of the best scenes in the entire third act. It's a very like satisfying moment. It's like a very like whoa moment and all that. So yeah. What else is there to talk about? So yeah, Captain America can lift Thor's hammer, both hammers actually. So yeah. What else is there to talk about in this? There's so much in this third act. And yeah, and then yeah, like Thanos, like I said, he's more powerful than ever in this movie because he's punching Captain America, he's punching Iron Man left and right. Like there's no one there to stop him. It's like he's freaking throwing them. He's freaking like punching them left and right. It's just like. Whoa, like at that point I was just like Josh Brolin is at the top of his game and he's having so much fun with his performance and he's at the top of his game playing Thanos. Thanos is the most powerful he has ever been since Infinity War. I mean he has really improved since Infinity War. It's like this is a totally different version of Thanos that we're seeing. I mean it's not, but it feels like it because this is like 2014 Guardians Thanos. And he was in that movie very brief. But yeah, he has a more larger role in this movie. And there's like, I think there's like a couple of deleted scenes that we see from this movie. Like, because they weren't scenes that were in those movies. I'm not sure if they were just rarely shot for this movie. But yeah. Anyways, but yeah, they are some of the best scenes where Captain America he's holding his shield and he has his hammer. They're some of the best moments. What else is there to talk about? Okay, and then Thanos calls in his army, and yeah, like he has his whole army. He has his 4 guardians from the first. His 4, I guess, what should I call them? Like bounty hunters from Infinity War. Like they've returned, and yeah, like they're there to serve Thanos and to help him in this big epic final battle for the MCU. And he has all his like wild dogs, has all his freaking spaceships, he has all these dragon type things. We very briefly saw them in Age of Ultron. I think they were in Infinity War, just can't remember. But yeah, he has his whole army there. And then this is the great moment here, is where there's this portal that appears, and who comes out first? I think it's Doctor Strange, I think. But yeah, like there's this portal opens, like multiple portals, and all the Avengers that have been turned to dust, they come back to life. So Doctor Strange, Spider-Man, who else? Basically, but yeah, all the Avengers that turned to dust, they came back, and yeah, they're there for that epic battle. They would not miss the final battle, and just the whole color tone, because like the Avengers like Leia, like they are like the Avengers like their HQ has been destroyed. Like Nebula 2014 Nebula, like she freaking like blew rockets at it and it exploded, and the Infinity Gauntlet is wrecked. And yeah, like Hawkeye, he achieves it. He receives it, should I say? And yeah, he's running because there's some of like Thanos's like hound dogs like running after him and all that. So yeah, but yeah, all the Avengers have been turned to dust because of what Hulk did with that flick. It just took them it just took them a while to come back. And but yeah, like that third act is probably the best third act I've seen in the MCU. Some of the best performances, some of the best action I have seen ever in the MCU. There has not been a fight this exciting with this much energy and just this much power and just this much, like, this movie is just true fan service. It's a truly satisfying, huge third act, and just like the whole color tone in that third act is just amazing, and just seeing the Avengers and all of them like come together with that epic Avengers music playing on dun 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 dun. Well, that's playing, and yeah, you get this epic fight at the end with the Avengers and freaking Thanos' army, and they have a fight, and it is just so good. And Captain Marvel's there as well. Captain Marvel, Brie Larson, I have not talked about her in this movie. She has a bigger role in this movie. She has a bigger part in this movie to do. Yeah, like Nick Fury's not in this movie much. He does show up. I will talk about his towards the end. There's like there's still like a tons more, and yeah, Brie Larson, after they fight for a little bit, a freaking Captain Marvel, like she freaking like comes out of nowhere and just wrecks Thanos' ship, just like she freaking like punches through it, like there's explosions everywhere. His ship goes down, and what else happens? But and there's this very emotional moment with Iron Man and Spider-Man. So this is kind of, I guess you can define this ending as what Infinity War was, just kind of redone in a very different way though. It's the same ending, just changed around. And what I mean by that is this time like when Spider-Man like comes back, like Iron Man, like he gives him a hug and all that, just because he's Iron Man. He felt really bad that Spider-Man, that he let a kid die. He felt like really bad. That's why he would not kind of join in the first place, because he does not want to make it worse than it already is. But when he comes back, there's this very emotional moment with Iron Man and Spider-Man, and they're hugging and just telling how much they missed each other. And yeah, like there's the big epic here, third act. And yeah, it delivers as me being an MCU fan and me being as a follower of these films for the past 11 years, and just seeing these characters' stories like evolve, just seeing their arcs, their stories, and their characters develop over time. It's just, it made me just happy as an MCU fan. This is truly one of the best third acts. But anyway, I want to continue on. But yeah, Captain Marvel, she freaking destroys Thanos' ship, and then what happens is like there's this bigger like tidal wave, I guess you can say. This bigger tidal wave is coming in, like Doctor Strange, he's like using his powers to like make it go into like a tornado like type form, and yeah, it's just so it doesn't like I guess wreck the whole battle. I think that would be the correct word there. And it's so much happening in this third act. It's hard to just keep up with this movie. Sometimes there's so much to talk about, and it's hard to even do a spoiler review and just keep up with everything that's happening in this. Okay, so I'll get to the last couple of minutes, because I was ready to see this. This was one of my expectations, because for Avengers Endgame, this is going to be the last movie for a couple of heroes. Black Widow was already one of them, and there's a second hero, which happens in the third act. And this scene, I felt so many different emotions. I cried, and I felt so bad. This is a character we have learned to love since the very beginning, and that is Iron Man. He dies in this movie because he puts on the Infinity Gauntlet, and that's what makes freaking Thanos and his army turn to dust. So it's a very different ending to Endgame. It's come to a switch around, because in Infinity War it was the Avengers. This time around it's Thanos and his army that turn to dust, because he puts it on. He does the flick, and you have to have a certain amount of power to actually control that, to actually control like the stones and the Infinity Gauntlet, because it can't just be used by any normal like mortal man. It has to be used by the right person. And Tony, he was not up to that, and and after this snap, after his army starts disappearing, he's laying down, he's all wrecked up, his suit is wrecked, and he's dying, and it's a scene that just it hits you. I was just crying, and at that point, the cinema just went completely quiet. This was a moment of respect, and Iron Man has been a character we have known since, like I said, by what I meant, by the very very beginning, since 2008. Iron Man launched the MCU. Without Iron Man, we would not have the Avengers. That started this up. And it's just that's a scene that I was just like, no, we have officially lost, and the Avengers will never be the same again. It's a very sad moment. Like I said, it hit me right there. And it made me feel emotion, made me feel like sadness, it made me feel like lost hope. But what he did, it saved the world. If Thanos got away with what he was trying to do to, basically make the world his, without Iron Man's sacrifice, the world would not be saved, or it would not be the same again. So at the same time, I think Iron Man, he's a hero at the sacrifice that he made in this movie, and it hit you where it was supposed to hit you. It made you feel sadness. It made you feel like you've lost hope, but it was the right decision, because there's no other real person out of all the Avengers that could handle that Infinity Gauntlet and all the Infinity Stones. Because like I said, the Infinity Stones, they can't be held by any mortal man. The whole Infinity Gauntlet with all the stones, it can't be held by any mortal man. So this was a huge sacrifice Iron Man had to make, but it was a sacrifice that saved the entire world. And it hit me, and I feel like I've repeated myself, but man, that was a death that truly hit everyone. I feel like and I was just so like. And then right at the end of the movie, we have Iron Man's funeral, and everyone's there, like Hawkeye, like Captain America, like everyone's there, like War Machine, like everyone's there for their funeral. I don't want to mention all the names there, but like Nick Fury, that's his little cameo in that movie, and yeah, it's so freaking like everyone's there for his funeral, and just what the Russo brothers did with Iron Man's death, it's so well thought out, and it doesn't really drag on. It has just the right amount of emotion, just the right amount of timing for a death, and I feel like that's why it hit so well, because it was so well timed. And I mean, I was prepared for someone to make a sacrifice, but I was not ready for who it was. That was one of my predictions. I knew it was going to be Captain America or Iron Man. And I was correct. It was Iron Man. The way this death it unfolds, it has just the right amount of emotion and timing in it. It hits you so hard, just as a fan, just growing up. When you watch that first Iron Man, you were just like, oh, wow, this guy's at the top of his game. Iron Man, he owns this role, and this is certainly Robert Downey Jr.'s best role. I mean, he is going to be missed. Rest in peace, Iron Man. It's just like the death, it has just the right amount of timing. I feel like timing, it matters when a death is unfolding. And I feel like the pacing in this movie, I feel like it was okay. I feel like in the deaths, it had the right amount of timing, the right amount of emotion. I felt like a lot of different emotions. I just felt like that. I felt like a family has lost. I feel like this is a family member that we've known for 11 years that we have just lost, and there's no coming back from that. And it's just like his whole funeral scene and just his death. It's just so like it hits you and you feel that emotion. Just the music, it is also great in that scene. And then in the last couple of minutes of this movie, this is actually I think quite funny in this part. Is that Captain America, he goes back into that time machine, and he goes to old Captain America. So he's like 80 something now. He's given up. He's no longer Captain America, and yeah, he's kind of given up, and he gives the shield to Falcon. and he's like the new Captain America now of the next generation, of the next century. He owns this shield now. He is the Captain America because Steve Rogers, he has grew old because of time, because he went in that time machine, and yeah, he grew old to an age where he can't play Captain America. He was like 80 something years old, and at that age you wouldn't have that strength that you would when you were younger, when you were your younger self. And that's a scene that I thought was very emotion. It was very emotion filled there, and it was like, yeah, it was just like, it's so sad. I'm sure there's like a couple things in this review that I am missing out on. I'm sure there is. I feel like I would have talked for like over 40 minutes about this movie, and it's just like there's just so much to talk about. It's Avengers Endgame. I mean, how can you not talk about this? But I have developed 11 years of my life into watching these movies, watching these characters' stories, watching their stories evolve, watching their characters' arcs, seeing these heroes go through some hard times and getting out of those hard times, and just seeing them go up against the tough fights. This was a very tough movie to pull off, and I feel like the payoff to it is absolutely huge and 100% fan service. I mean, I love every second of this movie. And the first act, like I said, it was slow. It did feel like it wasn't what I expected from an Endgame movie, but then I've got to come back to the mindset that what happened after Endgame is going to affect the Avengers to where they are at now. It's basically, this one picks up straight after Infinity War. I probably should have started off this spoiler review with that, but I'm just kind of picking up these things as I talk about this movie, because like I said, there's so much to talk about, there's so much just to keep up with, there's so much just like energy and just emotion and just power in that third act. I wish I could talk about that third act for days and days on end, because there was so much to talk about, to the color, to the direction, to the depth, to the action. And the action, speaking of the action, that third act, it is damn amazing. This is probably some of the best action in the MCU ever. This is just wildly. This is the most wild action and probably the best fight. With it has like this. There's so much excitement and just power and energy that goes into that third act, and it's such a satisfying. It's huge, and it certainly pays off after the 11 years, and it is so worth it. But yeah, I don't think I've missed anything. If I have in this spoiler review, I will go back and film, because like I said, I have all of this week to edit it, and so if I miss anything, I'll just go back in and film that part and just talk about. But also, I went to this movie just hyped as a fan. Like, I wore my Avengers Infinity War shirt. Can't see, so there's Thanos, there's his glove right there, and Avengers Infinity War. Like, I bought this shirt just especially for this occasion, because this was a movie I did not want to let down, and it did not. It gave me everything I wanted as a fan, everything I wanted as a follower of these Marvel films, and everything as a follower of these characters' arcs and their stories, and I loved every second of this movie. So the problems that I had, I think I've already talked about, was just the first act. There was some editing choices I didn't like how the movie started off, but then it progressively got better towards the middle of the third act. The editing and the storytelling in this, I think, is so great, and yeah, it certainly delivers on the fan base. It certainly delivers as fan service to the fans. But yeah, I'm so happy with the way this, and the Avengers will never be the same again. So anyways, yeah, that's my spoiler review, my spoiler thoughts on Avengers Endgame, the final Avengers movie. After this, the Avengers, the way this movie ends, the Avengers will never be the same. It is just truly sad. I'm really more likely to go see this movie a second time in theaters, because I think also the 3D, I think it added an extra layer to this movie, because I feel like the 3D, this is not just normal 3D. This is in the scenes that it needed. It looks so great in this movie. It looks so great in 3D. It's a must-watch, a must-see in 3D. It adds just an extra layer onto the experience. It really immerses you into that world, into these characters, and just into the entire film. But I'm just so happy with what the Russo brothers did, because it's hard directing 24 characters, 24 actors in just one scene, especially that third act. That would have been just so hard to do with just two directors behind the camera. That third act would have been so hard to direct, but somehow the Russo brothers pulled it off, and yeah, just round of applause to the directors, the Russo brothers, and a round of applause to the visual effects supervisor, because they did some outstanding stuff with the CGI and the special effects. They certainly stand out in this film as something that's gone down in MCU history as some of the best CGI ever, and some of the best action. And actually, I would probably say the best action in the entire MCU. I loved the action in this. The third act, like I said, it certainly pays off with the action, and the 11 years were so worth it. So yeah, anyways, they're my spoiler thoughts. I don't want to keep on rambling on, because I feel like I've talked for long enough. But anyways, yeah, thank you for everybody who watched this video, and let me know down in the comments, what did you all think of Avengers Endgame? I'm sure you've all had a chance to watch it, because this is my spoiler review, so why would you be watching this if you have not seen Avengers Endgame? Tonight was its opening night in Australia, and I was so glad I went to see it, because it was so worth the payoff, so worth the anticipation, so worth the hype, so worth the 11 years. So anyways guys, I hope you have a good rest of your night, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.